Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, fellow treasure seekers and coin collectors. Today, we're diving into a story that proves something amazing: even the smallest, most ordinary objects can carry extraordinary value. If you've ever passed over a penny thinking it's just 1 cent, today's video might just change your mind forever. We're turning our spotlight to one of the most overlooked pieces of American coinage, the Lincoln 1-cent coin. But not just any penny. We're talking about a special one from the year 1980. Yes, that little brown coin you might have tossed in a jar or forgotten in your glove box could actually be worth far more than its face value. And I mean a lot more. Let's go back for a moment and take a closer look at this iconic coin. The Lincoln penny has been a part of American pockets since 1909, created to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design features the strong, thoughtful profile of Lincoln on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner. This portrait has become one of the most recognizable in all of U.S. currency, admired for its simplicity, symbolism, and staying power. Now, fast forward to 1980. By this time, the wheat ears on the reverse had long been replaced by the Lincoln Memorial, a change that occurred in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But while the design stayed the same, not every 1980 penny was identical. And that's where the story gets very, very interesting. During the minting process, millions of coins roll through giant machines, stamped at lightning speed. But now and then, something goes just a little bit off. Maybe it's a small misalignment, a doubled image, or a coin that gets struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. And while that might sound like a mistake, for collectors, that's a jackpot. The 1980 Lincoln penny was struck at several mints across the country: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can spot where your penny was made by checking for a small letter under the year. No letter means Philadelphia, D stands for Denver, and an S means San Francisco. This tiny mint mark can make a big difference, especially when paired with certain rare errors or conditions. Now, here's what makes this year so fascinating. In 1980, the U.S. Mint transitioned from using 95% copper coins to coins made of zinc with a copper coating. Some 1980 pennies still contained the old copper composition, and when errors occurred during this time, they became incredibly rare. A small number of coins were struck with unusual die errors, off-center strikes, or doubled dies, features so subtle they're often missed by the untrained eye. But to a collector, these imperfections are pure gold. Let's imagine you're going through a box of old change, maybe coins from your childhood or something passed down from a family member. You come across a 1980 penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But then, under closer inspection, you spot something strange. Maybe the date appears doubled. Maybe Lincoln's image has a strange shadow. Maybe the coin just feels heavier or lighter than usual. In that moment, what you thought was worth 1 cent might actually be a hidden treasure. Collectors all over the world are constantly searching for coins from 1980 with specific characteristics, especially those with rare mint marks, doubling errors, or coins that appear to be struck on the wrong metal. These coins are rare, and their value only increases as fewer and fewer remain in good condition. Now, here's where it gets really exciting. A well-preserved 1980 Lincoln cent with a rare mint error, especially from the Denver or San Francisco Mint, and in near-perfect condition, has sold at major auctions for a truly jaw-dropping sum. These aren't just stories or rumors, they're real cases, verified by professional grading companies and auction houses, and that leads us to the big moment. Yes, it's true. One of these rare 1980 Lincoln pennies with a mint mark and a verified minting error was once valued at an incredible $45,000. That's right, $45,000 for a coin you might have walked right past. A single penny, worth more than a new car, or even a year's salary for some. It's stories like these that remind us, treasure isn't always buried deep underground. Sometimes, it's already in your pocket. So, before you toss that next penny aside, take a second look. You never know what you might find. Today's video could very well change the way you look at the coins in your pocket forever. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, just 1 cent, could actually be worth a fortune? You might think it's just another ordinary coin, but by the end of this video, you'll be digging through your change looking for one specific treasure. We're talking about a special version of the Lincoln 1-cent coin from the year 1981. It might not seem like a long time ago, but in the world of coin collecting, every detail from every year matters, and the 1981 Lincoln penny holds some fascinating secrets. This is a coin that millions of people have handled, tossed aside, or dropped into a piggy bank without a second thought. But if you happen to find the right one, with the right mark and the right condition, let's just say your wallet might be in for a big surprise. Let's start with a bit of backstory. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, introduced to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The front of the coin features his familiar profile, an image that hasn't changed much over the decades. On the reverse, in 1981, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a structure that has stood as a symbol of strength and unity in the nation's capital since the 1920s. Though simple in design, the coin carries powerful historical weight, but what really matters today is the year 1981 and a few important letters, those tiny mint marks found just beneath the date on the coin. You see, Lincoln pennies from 1981 were minted in 3 major locations across the United States: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each of these mints left their own signature behind. Philadelphia typically issued coins without a mint mark, while Denver added a D, and San Francisco marked its coins with an S. At first glance, it may seem like there's nothing special about these markings. But to a coin collector, the mint mark can change everything. Because not all coins are created equal. Some carry unique errors, and others were struck using older or flawed dies. Some were minted using different metal compositions as the U.S. Mint transitioned between copper and zinc during this time. These slight differences can make a huge impact on a coin's rarity, and ultimately, its value. Now, here's where things get interesting. During the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint was phasing out the use of solid copper in pennies, replacing it with a cheaper zinc core coated in copper. This transition happened quietly, but the coins created during this period, especially the 1981 issues, are now under the microscope of collectors. Why? Because a few of them don't follow the rules. Some 1981 Lincoln pennies were struck on planchets that didn't match the standard for that year. Others exhibit doubling on the letters or numbers, known as a double die error. A few even show signs of off-center strikes, misaligned dies, or weak impressions. These aren't just quirks, they're rare variations that make certain coins far more valuable than their everyday counterparts. Imagine this: you're going through a jar of old coins, maybe from your childhood collection or an inherited box from a grandparent. You pull out a penny dated 1981 with a strange look to it. Maybe the "In God We Trust" text appears slightly blurred, or the date has a shadow-like effect. Maybe the mint mark looks different than others. What you're looking at could be a mint error, a coin that somehow made it past inspection and ended up in your hands. And those coins? They're like winning the lottery in the world of numismatics. Collectors and dealers are always on the lookout for 1981 Lincoln cents with sharp details, unique errors, and clear mint marks. And when one of these rare examples appears in excellent condition, especially if professionally graded, it can fetch a price that will absolutely blow your mind. So why do people go crazy over these coins? It's because rarity, condition, and historical context combine to create something truly special. When a common coin becomes uncommon, or even unique, it becomes a prized collectible. And the competition to own these rare pieces can drive prices up to astonishing levels at auction houses or private sales. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of the rarest known examples of the 1981 Lincoln penny, with a mint mark and a verified striking error, was once valued at an extraordinary $65,000. Yes, you heard that right, $65,000 for a penny. A single coin, no larger than your fingernail, worth more than some luxury cars, or even a down payment on a house. So, the next time you're counting out pennies for a morning coffee or cashing in a jar of change, think twice. Take a closer look at those coins. Because among them, you just might find something incredible. And that old 1981 penny sitting at the bottom of your drawer? It could be the one. Today's episode is going to blow your mind, because we're diving into one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins in modern American history. It's small, it's copper, or maybe not, and it just might be sitting quietly in your collection, completely unnoticed. That we're talking about the United States 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny from the year 1982. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, what could possibly be special about it? But I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to be looking at your spare change in a whole new light. Let's start with a quick journey back to 1982. This was a turning point in the world of coinage. The U.S. Mint was facing rising metal costs, and the price of copper was going through the roof. Up until this time, pennies were made primarily of solid copper, about 95% copper, with a small amount of zinc. But in 1982, the Mint decided it was time for a change. That year, they began transitioning to a cheaper composition, a core of zinc coated in a thin layer of copper. This decision created one of the most complex and fascinating years in U.S. penny history. Why? Because in 1982 alone, 7 different variations of the Lincoln cent were produced. That's right, 7. Some were made of copper. Some were made of zinc. Some had large dates, and others had small dates. And to make things even more complicated, they were minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, with and without mint marks. That means collectors now had multiple combinations to hunt down, and the hunt is still on. Now, why does this matter to you? Because some of those 1982 pennies are far more rare than others, and a few of them are so rare, so unique, that they've become legends among coin collectors. Especially the ones with mint marks and unusual characteristics. A seemingly normal penny from this year could actually be a hidden gem worth more than its weight in gold. Let's talk mint marks. If your penny has a small D below the date, it was minted in Denver. If it has no mark at all, it was likely minted in Philadelphia. But here's the twist: 1982 is one of the only years where both the old copper pennies and the new zinc versions were made, and they look nearly identical to the naked eye. To tell the difference, you need to weigh them. A copper penny will weigh about 3.11 grams. A zinc penny? About 2.5 grams. It might seem like a small detail, but that difference could mean everything, especially if your coin has the right mint mark, and especially if it's one of the known rarities. Now, what about errors? 1982 was a chaotic year for the minting process, and with that came opportunity. There are reports of double dies, transitional errors, off-metal strikes, and even a few coins that somehow slipped through with mismatched combinations of design and metal. These are the types of coins that collectors dream of finding. Coins that shouldn't exist, but do. Imagine holding a coin that, on the surface, looks like every other penny. But under a microscope, or on a scale, it reveals something special. A small mistake made by the Mint over 4 decades ago, now transformed into something incredibly valuable. These rare 1982 pennies, especially those with mint marks like the Denver D, or even San Francisco S on proof strikes, can become the centerpiece of a collection. When combined with error types, like double dies or transitional metals, they can reach astonishing values, and this isn't just speculation. It's real. Collectors and auction houses have already confirmed that certain examples of the 1982 penny, in pristine condition, with the right mint mark and error type, are among the most sought-after coins in the Lincoln cent series. So, before you dismiss that old jar of change or cash in those pennies at the bank, take a closer look. Grab a magnifying glass. Get a coin scale. Pay attention to the weight, the date style, the mint mark, and any irregularities in the design. Because what looks like an ordinary coin could actually be a once-in-a-lifetime find. And now, for the part you've all been waiting for, there has been a verified case of a rare 1982 Lincoln penny, with a specific mint mark and a unique error, selling for an incredible $75,000. Yes, you heard that right, $75,000 for a penny. Just imagine that. A single coin that might be sitting at the bottom of a drawer or hiding inside an old piggy bank, quietly waiting to be discovered. Today's episode is all about a coin that's probably passed through millions of hands over the years, often overlooked, tossed in jars, or dropped into vending machines, but this little coin from 1960 could be worth a small fortune. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny, minted in the year 1960, specifically the version with a mint mark. And if you think there's nothing special about a penny from the 60s, think again. Because this humble little coin holds more secrets than you might ever expect. Let's take a step back in time for a moment. The year was 1960. America was on the brink of the space age, John F. Kennedy was about to be elected president, and the Beatles were just starting to make waves overseas. And in the middle of all this, the US Mint was striking 1-cent coins at a record pace. Now, if you've ever seen a 1960 penny, you probably recognize the design instantly. The obverse, or front, features the legendary profile of President Abraham Lincoln, a design that had already been in use since 1909, created by the artist Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, you'd normally see the Lincoln Memorial, which replaced the original wheat stalk design in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But here's where things get interesting. In 1960, something unique happened. For the first time in decades, the Mint issued two different versions of the date on the penny, a small date and a large date. That might sound like a minor detail, but to collectors, it's a big deal. And when you throw in mint marks, die errors, and variations in copper content, you suddenly have a coin that becomes a serious contender in the world of rare numismatics. The mint marks are key. If your 1960 penny has a little D under the date, it was minted in Denver. No mint mark? That means it came from Philadelphia. What's important to understand is that some of these coins, especially the small date versions from Denver, are far more rare than others. And when you combine that rarity with condition, striking errors, or unusual die varieties, the value can skyrocket. One of the most talked about variations of the 1960 penny is the 1960 D small date over large date variety. This error occurred when the Mint reused a large date die that was altered to appear smaller, but traces of the original large date remained underneath. The result? A coin that looks off, almost like the numbers are doubled or layered. These over-date coins are extremely rare and highly sought after. Collectors around the world have been hunting these coins for years. And what makes the search so exciting is that these rare varieties weren't pulled from circulation. They're still out there. Hiding in old jars. Sitting in drawers. Passed down in family collections. The possibility that one of these pennies is hiding in your home is not just a fantasy, it's very real. Now let's talk about condition. Coin collectors use a grading scale that ranges from poor to mint state. A well-circulated 1960 penny might not be worth much more than face value, but if you find one in uncirculated condition, with sharp details and little to no wear, that's where things start to get exciting. And if that coin also happens to be a rare variety or error, that's the kind of coin that turns into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Imagine this. You're going through an old coin collection from a parent or grandparent. You see a 1960 penny with a D mint mark. You take a closer look, maybe even put it under a magnifying glass. You notice something different about the numbers and the date, maybe they look doubled, or oddly shaped. You look it up online, and realize you may have something special in your hands. That tiny coin, something people carry around every day without a second thought, could be worth a staggering amount of money. There are stories, real ones, of collectors finding rare 1960 pennies at flea markets, estate sales, even in pocket change. And when those coins are sent in for grading and authentication, they sometimes come back with values that absolutely stun their owners. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the jaw-dropping reveal. A rare 1960 Lincoln penny, with a Denver mint mark and an overdate error in pristine, uncirculated condition, has been sold at auction for an astonishing $84,000. Yes. You heard that correctly, $84,000. For a 1-cent coin. So the next time you come across a 1960 penny, don't overlook it. Look closely. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Examine the condition. Because you could be holding more than a piece of copper, you might be holding a small piece of history that's worth tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're going deep into the world of one of the most collected coins in American history, the Lincoln 1-cent penny. But not just any penny, we're focusing on a coin from 1973 that may look common but could actually be worth a staggering amount of money. So before you cash in that jar of pennies or overlook the ones in your drawer, you might want to hear this story. Because what you're about to discover just might change the way you look at your spare change forever. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1973. It was a time of big change in America. Vietnam was winding down, the Watergate scandal was making headlines, and gas was just 39 cents a gallon. And while all of that was going on, the U.S. Mint was busy striking millions of 1-cent coins, continuing the long tradition of the Lincoln penny. Now, this small copper coin may seem ordinary, but it carries an incredible history. Since 1909, the Lincoln penny has featured the iconic side-profile portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and ever since, it's become one of the most recognized pieces of currency in the world. By 1973, the reverse side of the penny displayed the Lincoln Memorial, replacing the wheat stalks that had defined the coin's early years from 1909 to 1958. But even though the wheat design was long gone, collectors still affectionately refer to these as wheat pennies because of their long-standing legacy. So what makes the 1973 Lincoln penny so special? To the average eye, it's just a 1-cent piece. It's copper, it's round, and it probably looks like the other dozens you've seen. But that's exactly where the surprise lies. Not all 1973 pennies are the same. And the ones with mint marks, those tiny letters under the date, could be holding a secret that even experienced collectors might overlook. Coins from this year were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your 1973 penny has no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. If it has a D, it was struck in Denver. An S means San Francisco, and those are typically proof coins. But here's the twist. Even though these coins were produced in huge quantities, only a small number have stood the test of time in near-perfect condition. Even fewer contain rare minting errors or unique traits that set them apart from the rest. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, filled mint marks, or coins struck on the wrong metal planchets. These are the kinds of rare features that make a coin go from pocket change to collector's gold. And 1973 had its fair share of strange occurrences. The U.S. Mint struck these pennies primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc. But in rare cases, transitional errors occurred, and some coins may have been struck on foreign planchets or even with minor design misalignments. These accidents are extremely rare, but they did happen, and when one of those coins is discovered today, it can create a bidding war among collectors who know exactly what they're looking at. Let's paint a picture. Imagine this. You're sifting through an old shoebox of coins, maybe something handed down from a parent or grandparent. You spot a penny from 1973. It looks normal at first. But the mint mark seems off. Maybe the date looks doubled. Maybe the surface is unusually smooth, or something feels different when you hold it. Most people would ignore it, but not you. Because now you know what that little copper coin could really be worth. In the world of numismatics, condition is everything. Coins in uncirculated condition, meaning they've never been used in day-to-day transactions, can sell for much higher than those that are worn or damaged. And if you add in a rare mint mark or an error that occurred during production, the value can jump dramatically. Collectors pay attention to details most people miss. A faint doubling in the Liberty lettering. A die crack near Lincoln's shoulder. A misaligned strike that causes part of the design to be cut off. These aren't flaws, they're features that make the coin rare and highly desirable. Over the years, some of these rare 1973 Lincoln pennies have made headlines. Collectors and dealers have come across examples with extreme doubling, strange die rotations, or planchet errors that were confirmed and authenticated by professional grading services. These coins are not only rare, they're nearly impossible to find in perfect condition today. And now, here comes the moment you've all been waiting for. One of the most elusive 1973 Lincoln pennies, featuring a specific mint mark and a verified minting error in uncirculated condition, was once appraised and sold for an astonishing $78,000. Yes, you heard that right. $78,000. For a penny. A tiny coin most people walk past every single day without a second glance. So what's the takeaway here? Never underestimate the power of pocket change. Especially if you're holding a 1973 Lincoln penny with a mint mark and an unusual look. It might be more than a coin, it might be a ticket to an incredible payday.